Okay, now we record it. Now we're live. Okay.
Sorry, Z.
Yes.
I think I saw Mark raising his hand earlier on. So I don't know whether he wanted to ask something or say something. Oh,
Okay.
I don't know whether the hand is still raised. I saw a hand was raised earlier on. Just letting you know.
Yeah, I don't see it now.
No, he just dropped a comment and he said, "No thanks, Edward."
Yeah, no, it says,
He said?
yeah, no, it's fine. It's okay.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Edward. If I can continue. Okay. Thank you for that. So if you have your hands raised, I'll probably be able to see them, but Snobomi and Portia will monitor the hands, the chat, and the Q&A. Okay. So as I mentioned, the recording of the session will be available on our YouTube page. We will drop the YouTube link so that you can go and access the link. Okay, so there is no deck. We're not doing a presentation, so there is nothing that presentation deck or a document that we can share with our attendees today. So the only thing that you're going to get out is the recording. To become a member of the IIBA, you can go to that link, which is iiba.org, www.iiba.org/business analysis. Okay, and if you want to check out our upcoming events, please follow us on LinkedIn. Please follow IIBA South Africa on LinkedIn. Also, you can check out, because we always post our upcoming events there. You can also check out IIBA Cape Town at southafrica.iiba for upcoming events as well. But our LinkedIn is where everything happens, our virtual events, our physical events as well. So please follow us on LinkedIn so that you can keep up to date with what is happening. Okay, and then if you would like to become a presenter on our IIBA, please reach out to any of the executive members. You can also drop us an email on our email address, which is that capetown@southafrica.iiba.org. Please reach out to us. We are always welcoming any presenters, anyone that wants to share their insights and their experiences with us. We are always welcome to that. So please reach out to us. And bits about being an IIBA member. Some of the benefits are you get access to an online library, which is more than 11,000 titles. So that is so your webinars, your podcasts, your documents, your articles that are released. So there's a vast knowledge that is in our online library on IIBA. You also get access to member exclusive webinars. These are webinars that are exclusive to members. And would probably be charging if you're not a member. So if you are an IIBA member, you get to access those webinars for free. You also get access to PDF publications, articles, industry papers and reports, etc. You get an opportunity to connect with other members locally and internationally on chapter events, on virtual events, on our interactions and networking events. You get exclusive access to the global community of BAs, educators, thought leaders, mentors, coaches, etc. And some of them are already in this in our panel as our panelists today. You get to save up to 40% on global recognized professional certificates. So we are big on certificates, and our certification is getting recognized even in South Africa. It is increasingly getting recognized in South Africa. So that is one of the benefits that you get as an IIBA member, that discount on the IIBA certifications. And you also get discounts on conferences like the BA Summit, which is coming up. Please do check it out. Go on our LinkedIn page. You can get the link to the BA Summit. You see that when you are an IIBA member, you get discount on such conferences. So that is our rules, and that is what you get, the benefits of being an IIBA member. Okay, So today we have these amazing people that have agreed to come share their expertise with us today. So I'm going to do a bit of an intro so that I can introduce you to them for you to know who they are. Okay, so today,
is it me or is Lumkile frozen?
Yeah,
I've lost her as well.
I'm sorry, I'm here. I don't know what just
Oh.
happened.
Hmm.
Okay, let me just stop sharing. Okay, I'm back. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can, but your picture's still frozen.
Is it my video is frozen?
Mhm.
Let me
She stopped
try.
sharing and I don't see her on my side. There we
Can
go.
see
Okay.
me now. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I think it was the sharing thing, the PowerPoint. My laptop assumed that I'm not on it, so it then froze and logged me out. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of intro about our panelists today. Today we have Edward Gubani, Mr. Edward Gubani. Edward is a multi-published article writer, a global leader and speaker in business analysis. So he's well known globally in our business analysis community. He is currently doing his PhD. He has written articles positioned towards being a business analyst and equipping upcoming and professional business analysts for the workplace. So if you haven't read any of Edward's articles, please go read them. Please look out for them. They are well equipping. They have there's so much wisdom that you can get from them. Whether you are an upcoming startup business analyst or an upcoming business analyst, or you have vast experience in business analysis, please go and read them. You will get so much wisdom from those articles. Thank you very much for joining us today, Edward.
Thank you for having me.
And then we have Loyiso Sipunzi. Hi, Loyiso. Loyiso is a dynamic, analytical, and knowledgeable head of analysis with a vast knowledge in business analysis, project management, and product ownership experience in financial services, oil and petroleum, and retail industries. Okay, and Loyiso, I have had a privilege of listening to Loyiso share his views in one of our thought leadership webinars at DVT, and I found her to be to be quite knowledgeable and very passionate about business analysis. We're looking forward to hearing that and receiving that passion today in this webinar, Louisa. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Z.
And then we have Sivu Yile. Sivu is a business analysis manager and enthusiast of business analysis competency. She has a master's in business and administration and a wide range of experience in business analysis, project management, and other related competencies. We look forward to hearing all of that and getting your knowledge, having you sharing your experiences with us today, Sivuyile. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And then last but not least, we have Olu. Olu is a very passionate, she is very passionate about business analysis. He owns he's part of an organization that trains upcoming business analysts and experienced business analysts, basically by sharing, by preparing them for certifications and sharing knowledge on interview preparations, on CV preparations as well. Olu is the former president of IIBA in Nigeria as well. We are very, 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 very happy to have you join us today, Olu, and we hope that you can share your vast experience with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Olu. All right, then we will kickstart. So to kickstart our discussion today, I wanted to start right at the beginning. I know this is a question that is asked so many times. It comes up very often, and sometimes we feel that it's an overkill. But I feel that it's the best place to start today. So my first question today would be, the business analysis competency and where it fits in an enterprise. I know it's been answered in so many articles, in so many books, in so many publications, but can that be our starting point today? And I'm going to pose this to Edward. So Edward, if you can open for us, and just, when you look at business analysis today, and from your opinion, where do you see it fitting in an enterprise?
That's a difficult question to see. I don't even know where to start. Because there's different perspectives and different angles, within which you can approach this. There's an organizational part which plays a role in the behavior that is displayed by business analysts, right? And this debate has been going on for a long time. Do BAs belong within the IT stream, or do BAs belong within the business stream, right? And I've been, as a BA, to have actually been in both sides. I've worked as a BA in the IT stream, where I am actually reporting into IT, and I've worked as a BA reporting into business. It's got its pros and cons, right? So the pro on the side of being in IT and reporting into IT is the fact that, the IT team are part of your colleagues, so it's easy to engage with them, and it's easy to understand the IT landscape, which is quite important. The downside to that is you may easily be detached from business and see business as them and us, which is a bit of a problem, because as BAs, we do need to have that strong relationship that we build a business. So if you are in that space as a business analyst, always watch out in terms of forging stronger relationships with business, as much as your structure and your reporting line is in IT. And then the other side, if you're in business, as a business analyst, the same challenge that you might have, you might struggle to connect with your IT team that needs to build on your behalf. As much as you probably would be well-versed in business, you need to make sure that you cover the blind spots from an IT perspective, and let IT see you as a colleague, not as us and them. That's just my take, and I'll pause there so that my other colleagues can also comment as well.
I think you're absolutely right, Ed. I completely agree with that, with your view there. I think also there's no right or wrong answer in terms of where the business analyst fits into the business. I think it also depends on the structure of that organization or the enterprise where you fit in. But I think that the core reason why the competency or capability is there, as long as that is still being served, and obviously with what you said, watching those blind spots depending on where you are in the organization, it shouldn't matter or impact your impact to the business as a business analyst.
That's true, and completely right. And I've also worked in both frames where I've managed a team of analysts within IT, and there's been benefits to that and some drawbacks, and vice versa within business. And I guess this question has gotten me thinking about, and I don't know if this exists, but is there a world where the business analysts operate independently of IT and of business, because then you can have a more objective view and you're not pulled in one direction or the other. You know, you don't view things from only a technological lens, or you're not kind of, you know, so embedded in the business that you don't see the end-to-end value chain. So I guess, you know, I guess it's more of a question or a thinking point in terms of a structure where business analysis is separate to IT and separate to the business and functions on its own, so that it can objectively, I guess, represent both parts without one feeling like, I guess, there's more bias to the other.
If I may quickly weigh in, I think it's really wrong for us to see business analysis as either between the IT or business, because, you know, a lot of people will ask me, oh, I want to be a business analyst, but I don't have a background in IT. I think maybe I don't want to jump the gun, but BA of the future will be distributed. So you see, business analysts can bring value from processes. You know, value can actually come from HR. So I'm going to see business analysts or business analysis that can work across boards, that can work with operations, that can work with decision making, that can even deliver value in manufacturing setting. So we have to break out of that silo that either you're working with the business or IT. I think business analysts will be working with the enterprise, you know, and the overall focus will be bringing value to the enterprise, improving the enterprise, and making the enterprise better. Thank you.
Solid.
I like that. I like how Olu sees it as the, you know, fitting in the different parts of the enterprise and the distribution. Having that in mind, so what functions then do you expect this business analyst that has, you know, that is disparate or fits in the different parts of the enterprise? What functions do you see this business analyst performing? Olu, if I can pose that to you.
Okay, thank you. You know, the byline. Okay, can I go?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so you know, the byline of IIBA is helping business do business better. You know, so the business analyst will not just be helping to interpret code or to act as the liaison between the business or the IT. I think our focus will be helping the business to maximize value. That is going to be the things that will be expected from the BA of the future. How can we do better? How can we solve problems? And somebody once asked me, even the project managers are doing that. And I would say the project managers, their focus is tactical. You need to know that as a business analyst, we can have a strategic focus, we can have a tactical focus, and we can even have an operational focus. So if you're going to ask me what do you expect from a BA, is to make the enterprise or to make the business do business better. Thank you.
I interpreted that question a little bit differently, I guess, to Olu, but completely agree to his points in terms of, you know, the business analyst is meant to ensure that or help the business maximize value. But when I think about kind of like functions that I expect the BA to perform, or at least kind of, you know, the role that I expect them to play in the enterprise, whether they are in IT or business or existing elsewhere, I think requirements elicitation and analysis is a big thing, because this is what will help, I guess, the business get to understand what they need, what the problems are that need to be solved, and if there's a technological solution that is required, and if not, is it a process change? Is it a change in the structure? Is there change management element to it? So I think kind of unpacking those requirements, which goes with, there's multiple different elicitation techniques, but definitely connecting with the business, understanding what their problems are, using user-centered design in that, using design thinking, a lot of listening, a lot of empathy towards kind of getting to the crux of the problem, I think is definitely one of the most important functions that I would expect a BA to perform. And I mean, there's multiple others, but I'll leave the rest of the thinking to the forum panel.
I think I had the same interpretation, Lois, or similar in that I was thinking when Z asked the question, I was thinking along the lines of also the the core functions that you do perform as a BA, which is enlisting requirements, but also like you said, using the right tools to actually communicate or your findings or those requirements in a way that is consumable by the various stakeholders, depending on wherever they sit, whether in business or technical, or because an analyst would also be involved in the process of defining the solution, the appropriate solution for whatever the core issue is that they're trying to resolve for the business, and also being involved in supporting the other functions within the delivery space of the SDLC space. So, but ultimately, as a business analyst, I think your core function is to, like Olu was saying, to help the business solve complex problems in the organization to maximize business benefit.
100% Sivs.
Yeah,
Okay.
Further. I mean, Olu mentioned something operational, tactical, and strategic, right? So I think we need to break it according to those layers, where at what is at each level, so that because I mean, part of the people that are here are at different levels as well. I mean, there's people that are probably new to business analysis. I'm assuming people that are intermediate and people that are senior. So before you get to the top, which is where we should all be aiming for as business analysts, actually. We should be aiming to be business advisors. Business advisors is...
It is breaking up for me.
I've lost Ed on my side.
Technology agnostic. Let's start there. So it's regardless of the... can you hear me?
Ed, I'm
We can't hear
struggling
you
to
now.
hear
Can
your
you guys hear
network. Now we can.
No, it's not. Okay, cool. I'm saying, so the functions that are important is we need to be able to say, what are we delivering at what point? Because there is elicitation of requirements, but we can't be stuck in elicitation of requirements all the time. It means we're not growing. Right? We then have to layer that with, let's work according to where are you going with business. And on top of that, then we have to layer it with, now, how can I advise you in terms of where you need to go as business without necessarily owning the strategy? Because whenever we talk about
You're breaking.
Points that he's making though. We can't hear you. If you can hear us, you've completely broken off, Ed. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, Ed. I hope you can hear us. Okay. So to continue, such vital points that Edward was making about not just looking at the strategic level, but looking at all levels, tactical as well. I'm gonna tap on something that you mentioned, Loiso, about the business analyst should be able to do elicitation and factor all of these things into his into their daily jobs. So you mentioned empathy, and I'm very much interested in that. And my next next question to you would be, if you were to describe this business analyst, what characteristics would you associate with this business analyst?
Alrighty, so I guess along the lines of empathy, I think somebody who's an active listener, because that's not only necessary to be able to interpret business needs and translate them into requirements, but it's also necessary to be able to empathize with the stakeholder and the user, and be invested in solving their problems. So I think the empathy part definitely comes in with the active listening. But I also think another characteristic, if you'll allow me, that I personally find really important is interpersonal savvy, because that's the ability to build and maintain solid relationships. And once you are able to build those, you're able to build trust and rapport, and that leads to your power to influence and to drive changes. And so with that interpersonal savvy, you're able to, I think it's also quite, it has a close relationship with empathy, because once people feel like you empathize with their situation, their problems and their needs, you are able to then build and maintain those relationships that will help you drive and deliver that change.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Sivu?
100%. I agree with, it's almost as like she was saying all the things I was thinking when you asked that question. Without sounding like a parrot, but I think it's very important that the rapport building, because I think we always focus on, I think it's not a new concept. We always say stakeholder management and stakeholder, but I think more than just within, you know, obviously the project space or whatever, but building a rapport with your business so that you can get to those levels where Ed was saying, to build that trust where you can even, you know, you get to a point where you're actually an advisor, not just eliciting and documenting requirements. You know, they come to you because they understand, you know, they know that you are sort of invested in what, you know, in their problems that the business has and trying to get to the right solutions there. And I'd also add on there, I think systems thinking or critical thinking, whereby you're, you know, when you're able to identify a problem, but also think broader and outside just the scope of maybe whatever the business came to you with, but broader than that, and being able to see, you know, put your own experiences to, I mean, in whatever context, we all, as analysts as well, you're also a customer. You know, you're always the customer. So you can always put yourself in the position of a customer and what the business is trying to solve for. If they give you maybe, in a lot of cases, business always says, we want A, B, and C, and you kind of play that scenario through. What are they actually trying to solve? You know, think broader than what they came with. And also when solutioning, think broader than what you have in front of you, but what is the bigger problem we're trying to solve? What is the customer, how is the customer going to receive it? How is it going to impact operations within the business one, you know? So I think systems thinking, being able to influence as well, because and I think that comes with the trust, because if you have built that relationship with your business stakeholders, that rapport, they're able to trust you when you actually suggest solutions or way forward.
True, Sivs.
Thank you very much, Sivu. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to come to you, Olu. So what are some of the, you know, important soft skills that when you look at business analysts that you see them paying less attention to, or that they do not see them as important, or they do not put them to practice much? Soft skills that you foresee when you look at, you see them as important, but business analysts don't pay much attention to. Olu.
Okay, thank you. You know, before I answer that question, I love what Loyiso said. Loyiso said empathy and ability to influence. And I think that cuts across it. Let me just share an example. I think it was during the Euro football tournament in Europe, and the Portuguese Ronaldo, picked up a bottle of Coke and said, "This is not good." And he brought up a bottle of water. And you know what happened the following day? Coca-Cola lost billions of dollars on the stock exchange. For me, that is real influence. That is real influence. And, you know, and I think it's influence it's a soft skill that we are not paying attention to. We've been taught to know how to elicit. We've been taught to know how to communicate. We've been taught to know how to build relationship. But influence is actually key. Influence is really very important. Whether you're an entry-level business analyst or you're a C-suite executive, you need to know how to influence your stakeholders, influence everything around you. It's something that we need to put in the next bubble. Thank you.
Very true, Olu.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Louisa?
Yeah, so for me, the ones that I feel like it's not only just the BAs, welcome back, Eddie. It's not just the BAs that pay less attention to them. I just think, people in general in organizations. I think emotional intelligence for me has really come up as a skill, a soft skill that, is known, but not necessarily focused on. And I think, defining emotional intelligence, just the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and to kind of remain positive and to be able to communicate effectively, again, to empathize with others, and to be able to overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. And I think also very closely tied with emotional intelligence is self-awareness, right? Because you need to be able to evaluate yourself and manage your own emotions and align your own behavior, and also make sure that you're aligned with how others perceive you. And added to that, social awareness, because it's not only about awareness of self, but also awareness of the people around you, and understanding that everybody comes from different backgrounds and cultures, and be cognizant of that, and take that perspective and empathize with it. And so I just find, EQ and self and social awareness are not getting as much attention as they should in a professional framework as just in general, and not only BAs.
Yeah. I don't know if this also talks to what you're saying, Lloyd, but I think also being able to, in that, let's say that, a space of panic, or there's, pressure. I think the ability to be able to stand still and kind of see or hear what the other person is trying to communicate to you, or pick up what the actual issue is, and not necessarily be pulled into the rah as well. That's or whatever the situation is, at the time. And I think, I don't know if there's a term for it, but the ability to be able to actually contextualize what is happening and understand the problem.
Thank you very much, Sibu. Thank you very much for joining us again, Edward. So just to recap with you, we are now talking about soft skills that are important, that we feel that business analysts pay less attention to. Sibu and Louisa have shared their views on EQ and social awareness and personal awareness, and as well as Olu. Olu also shared very important on EQ as well. So that is where we are. I'm not sure if you have any views or anything that you would like to share with us, or on this point.
Yes. I think it's important to remain calm as a business analyst and to develop the thing, because in most cases when things don't work, I know it from personal experience, when things don't work, the person that is actually in the firing line is not the developer. It's hardly the developer. It's hardly the tester, right? It is always the business analyst. So
the requirements were not clear.
Exactly, Bestie.
They're not clear, the requirements are missed, etc. So you must always know that your work is going to be scrutinized. You are going to be in the firing line, so you have to develop that thick skin, and you must also be able to make sure that you are able to navigate the different stakeholders, because we deal with different stakeholders, and we need to be able to know how to manage them. Because I think from a soft skills perspective, where I think BA sometimes make a mistake is to take one approach across all the stakeholders. It doesn't work that way. You have a stakeholder that likes it in a memo format, it's fine. As long as you, and the stakeholder allowance, break it to me in pieces, come to talk to me first. The stakeholder doesn't mind, you can talk to him or her in a group of people. So you need to identify and manage them so that they don't surprise you. And also identify the influential, I always say, identify the influential stakeholders in the organization. Make sure that those are the ones that you work very closely with, because some people that when they say this is the direction we're taking, everyone else follows, right? You need to make sure that you divide and conquer. Those are your people that you need to be close with, because if you don't have them, they can sabotage you in a workshop. You plan a 4-hour workshop, in the first 5 minutes, they tear you down to pieces and you're crippled. The workshop doesn't proceed. You know what? Because you didn't take the time to understand them and categorize them accordingly. So the soft skills are critical in what we do.
Aligning with the gatekeepers.
Can I quickly jump in? So Edward, so in Nigeria, we say you need to be streetwise. And I think the same is also true. They said the street rules. So I think that's what you just described. Know who has the authority, who has the buy-in, and navigating that maze. So BA needs also to be streetwise. Thank you.
Absolutely, you have to know who carries the crowd.
Personal savvy.
Yeah, and look, the reality is it's a game of egos. Let's be realistic. Organizations are driven by people with egos. Whether we like it or not, we cannot. And you have to look at that to say, whose ego is more than, because that's the person you want actually, not that you're ignoring the other one, but that's the person you want to talk to upfront to make sure that they're aligned with what you want to do. Once you have their buy-in, they can run the workshop for you actually.
Lobbying, such an important skill.
Yeah.
And they don't teach that at school.
You learn it the hard way. I've seen people come out of the workshop crying because the workshop just didn't go that way. And the mistake is not that they didn't prepare. It's not that they didn't know what they were going to do. It's just that they didn't speak to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, true.
That's
for that. While still talking about skills, now I want to tap into technical skills, something that is coming up more often these days. So the importance, Loyiso, from your experience and what you see, what is the importance of having technical skills or technical knowledge as a business analyst?
So for me, and I'm not sure that I'm completely right here, but let's go with the narrative that there's no right or wrong answer. But I think it depends on where the analyst is positioned in the organizational structure, as we had spoken, and I think it was the first question around, where do the analysts fit in the enterprise? And so if the analysts sit in IT, then it is to their advantage to understand the technical capabilities and the technical feasibility of solutions, etc. And so technical knowledge becomes important because of, I guess, the world in which you exist. However, if you find that there are analysts that are embedded in the business functional areas, so for example, an analyst that is in finance or an analyst that is in client servicing, for example, or if the business analyst is paired with the systems analyst in IT, then you find that the technical knowledge and skills are not critical. So I think, kind of weighing them in terms of, is it critical or not? I think it's just an advantage to have them as a business analyst, because you do have technical roles or support that you work with, for example, systems analyst, an architect, a developer. And so you can easily get support from those roles, especially in an agile world. But I think, just in terms of just the basics, I think just understanding how things work. So having the knowledge, it doesn't have to be the skill set, but even the basics of understanding how an API works, for example, or knowing how to query a SQL database can go a really long way in helping the analyst in their analysis and solution thinking.
Yeah, so I like what you said, especially at the end, and I'll tell you why. Because I think for me, I think we always misunderstand the technical aspect of how to understand, how to be technical which coincidentally is what I'm talking about at the summit. But anyway, that's besides the point. But I think the first thing we always think we're saying BAs must be developers, right? And that's not necessarily, I think that's why we always approach it from thinking, no, does it mean now I have to be a developer? However, because the majority of the work that we do, right, we're in product development, right? And the product development manifests itself through solutions that can be used. There's already touched on processes. There's a part of business processes. So it's not only that it's always IT driven, there's a part of which is business processes. We can solve a problem without necessarily going down the system route. We can fix the processes and that solves a problem. But having said that, as a BA, I always feel that it's important that you have the understanding of the landscape within which you operate. Now, the landscape is broad. We emphasize technology because technology seems to be at the forefront because that's a delivery mechanism through which organizations interact with their customers. But the landscape is marketing. The landscape is regulatory. The landscape is compliance. There's so many aspects to the landscape within the organization that we need to be fully aware of as business analysts. We need to understand from a regulatory perspective how things work, what to do, what not to do, so that we can be advisors. Because remember, we can't be an advisor if you not fully understand, And having said that, so having said that, the technical skills come in the sense where, like you said, Loy, being able to query a database helps you as a business analyst because you have this asset that you have to work with. You are not relying on a data analyst or the developer to draw this for you. They may actually draw the wrong data, for example, and there you go, you do your analysis, you present at Menco, and then you get questioned because you're working with something that you don't understand. Whereas if you've got those skills, they help you to do your job much, much quicker. If you understand the structure of the APIs, you're able to see if, from a business perspective, the data that we need, is this the data that we need? Is it helping us? And how are we going to package this data so that further down the line, it makes sense? And how we're going to be able to retrieve it so that we can report on it, so that we can understand how the product works and what's the data. So for me, all of these things are actually interconnected. It's just not one piece, because if you think about it, one leads to the next and leads to the next. So the mindset that we should cultivate as business analysts is a mindset of holistic thinking, or systems thinking. Where we just don't see one thing as isolated, but we see one thing as part of the whole. And so if we cultivate that mindset, then it's important. It helps us to have some understanding of the IT landscape. It helps us to have some understanding of, we may not be working with regulatory projects, but we are in telco for an example. Let's understand ICASA. What's the role of ICASA? Because I can tell you now, you find that some PAs are working in the telco. They don't know what's going on with ICASA. Have no idea. You can ask them, what is ICASA? I'm sorry, but it can. You find PAs are working in the financial, in the banking sector. They have no understanding of the regulator. So things that I think are important overall.
True. And I can push that further. I love the fact that you ended with having that holistic mindset. And I also want to say that as business analysts, we need to be passionate learner, because we have to have this on hand. So sometimes I ask people, I say, do you read Bloomberg? And they'll be like, what is Bloomberg? So do you read Wall Street Journal? And they have no idea. Are you a business analyst? You don't know how the labor rates can affect your job as a banker in Nigeria, as a banker in South Africa. So because strictly speaking, we need 85% soft skills, 15% technical skills. So I had a conversation with Steve Helland. He was the South African IIBA president 2011. So he came down to Nigeria and we had this conversation. And we're just saying, what's going to be the future of business analysis? And then we had that for about 2 hours. See, I won't be surprised in the next couple of years we'll have football business analysts, because it's becoming a big business and they want to do it better. So do we all need to know about football? No, but know enough to make informed decision. You don't need to know how to program, but know, like what Loiso said, know what it means to query a database, know all the, so we need to, once you have that mind of constant learning, take a BA, put him on a ship and give him a title, you're now a marine business analyst. You should be able to, within a short period of time, learn enough, read enough to deliver real value to your business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olu. I will touch on something that Luisa said, which she mentioned that some of the soft skills that you mentioned are things that you are not taught in a tertiary institution. So I'll come to you, Luisa, and I'll say, so what, in your opinion, are some of the things that you think tertiary institutions should incorporate or should include in their syllabus in order for them to equip upcoming or aspiring business analysts?
I mean, you've answered the question, right? Because I think the curriculum is just too focused on technical skills and the competencies, and that's great to kind of learn. You need that knowledge. But I think also the soft skills, not just the theory, needs a little bit more focus, and not just listening and not just, talking about the principles of, let's say, time management, but actually putting it into practice. And you can easily do that with like building some scenarios in terms of saying, all right, you now have these 5 assignments and they all due in 2 days. And the focus shouldn't be around whether people are able to complete them in 2 days or not. It should be around the process that they've gone through to prioritize how did they choose the one that they chose to finish first. And there should also be reflection in that. And that's where the self-awareness comes in terms of being able to then reflect what was, was I stressed? How did I manage the stress? Did I just give up? Did I keep going? Did I overdose on energy meds and kind of did it so that, you kind of build that into the practice into university and kind of create real work-life scenarios while you're studying before you get to the work life, because this is what then the people get to work and struggle with, because they are taught the hard skills and they're brilliant and we get like A students, but you find just those soft skills, because it's not something that is focused on as part of the learning, that they really struggle with it. And I think also, we also can't rely on universities for everything, right? Or any institution of education. And so I also think it would really go a long way. And I know some universities do it and maybe others, there's a few that don't, but partnering with the corporates and organizations in the public and private sector to create opportunities for vacation work and internships. I remember in my time, I started going for vacation work from my second year, and that's because I had a sponsor, but that was a world of difference in terms of how life was when I started working and how I was differentiated to the other BAs that were starting at work who hadn't had any work experience and who hadn't been exposed to a work-like scenario. And so I think universities, we cannot rely on them for everything, but they need to kind of create the opportunities for the students to be exposed to environments that will help them build those soft skills.
Yeah,
I think that doesn't only speak to business analysis. I think that's across the board under other industries as well.
True, Sibs.
Yeah. But if I may add, I think what is actually missing is the basics of psychology. If you think about it, business analysis is a people's business.
That's true.
We actually are dealing with people. We have to receive, understand what's not being said, decipher the highly coded message, not only through the verbal communication, but through a lot of gaps of understanding this individual versus that individual. So really, if you think about it, there's a bit of psychology that can go a long way in helping business analysts do their job much, much better, because we are actually about working with stakeholders. You're working with the QA guy, working with the dev, you're working with marketing. All of them are driven by different, pressures and different deadlines, and they're different people, but it's only you, right? Now, you have to be schizophrenic because now you have to do all this. So it's a very complicated role that you play. I don't know why the psychology is not, included as part of the curriculum in preparing business.
100%. Eddie, I'm even thinking, Suze, why did we do Applied Math 101? Even like, how has that added value to our business analysis lives right now when we could have done Psychology 101?
Listen, I think university also teaches you to think. I mean, it stretches your way how you process information, right? And it might not be, you know, you might not be given a, this is the soft skill, or this is, you know, obviously I think we're all agreeing that there's that gap missing, but I think the challenges that you go through in that structured environment do stretch, you know, the way that you think and you process. You might land into a workspace and be completely like, what is happening? But I think because of that training, you quickly pick it up. And you either swim or you sink.
True.
If I may quickly weigh, oh, sorry, go ahead, Loisa, please go ahead.
Sorry, Olu. No, I was just going to support Steve's statement in terms of things like problem-solving skills, for example, which are really important in analysis and a number of roles. You do learn that through, you know, even the subjects that don't make any difference in your career now, but they taught you how to solve problems. Correct, and it taught you critical thinking, and it taught you analytical skills, etc. So completely agree.
I mean, I come from from a developer's background, computer science, and I didn't necessarily, I got out and into the workspace and as a developer, but it's you know, you taught a specific skill to develop, but when I got to the workspace and had to do it, the context was completely different to what I was used to in varsity. So that also stretched my thinking, but I could still apply some of the, you know, principles I learned in how I would try to solve the problem. Even though I didn't know the language, I could pick it up very quickly because, you know, of the way of thinking. Yeah, even though I quickly realized developing was not for me.
Okay, but maybe one thing I think we also need to emphasize, you don't learn how to swim in the classroom. You don't learn how to play football in the classroom. You head to the pitch. If you want to learn how to swim, you head to the pool. So I think we need to increase the content of internship, real life experience, and that's what the doctors do. They start going to the hospital the second year. So from the second year, push them to the industry. Like, you know, because some things comes with experience, and experience is not how old you are, it's the number of exposure you have to a specific situation. So I think that's also missing, you know. I'm also talking about psychology. I've never seen like that before, Edward, but it makes a lot of sense. We're in the people's business. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Olu. Thank you very much, Olu, Loiso, and Sifu, and Edward for adding and putting together such valid points that are towards, you know, psychology, that are towards practice, which is internships, that are towards learning soft skills that you'll be able to use when you are in the workplace, towards looking at how you're doing things, how you are putting together that assignment, the process that you go through to put together that assignment. And those are the type of skills that you actually use when you get to the workplace. So thank you very much to all of you for raising those valid points. Now I want to take a slight shift. Right, so we've spoken much about how we see business analysis and the skills that are valid and important now. We have seen a shift in the ways of working, in the adoption of Agile, and how that has impacted our competency. And with that said, you know, it's 2022. We do not know what the future holds. We do not know what changes or what impacts in ways of working, or how we will impact in our delivery, ways of delivering what is coming into the future. So we're not sure what it is that what is coming, but we know that we are anticipating that change will definitely come, and it will be there. So now, looking at this business analyst that we have described, what would you say are important skills that this business analyst should look at equipping themselves with, looking at where the world is going, how the world is shifting and changing in terms of technology? I'll pose this to you, Edward.
The value doesn't lie in writing requirements. I must be honest, you know, because you can train, that's a repeatable thing, right? I always say that's a repeatable thing. You can train someone to write requirements and eventually they get it, right? The value lies in you being able to show a complete grasp and understanding. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? The domain knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Domain knowledge of the business that you're operating within. That is where the value lies, because then you become a true asset to the organization you're servicing, because to a point where they say, you know what, we have this concept that we have in mind, but we need Loy, you know, as we brainstorm this, whether this concept is feasible. No, this is not about writing requirements or how you're going to implement it. This is at that highest level. We want to be there. We want to make sure that as business thinks of taking one step forward, they look around, they say, but we need someone who's a business analyst to tell us, are we moving in the right direction? Because we're expecting this person to know what our competition is doing, right? We're expecting this person to know what our landscape from a customer perspective is looking like, our target market. We're expecting this person to know, are we pricing this correctly? You know, what's our entry point to the market? How we enter? That is where the value lies in terms of the future of a business analyst. The value doesn't lie in being in the Scrum team and writing user stories. That's just the end point. So we need to elevate ourselves, push ourselves into that table where they feel they cannot go away to a stress session without the voice of a business analyst.
I think the way I was thinking about when you posed the question, Zulu, is that I think all of the points that we've discussed in terms of the importance of EQ, the importance of self-awareness, being, you know, all the skills we've spoken about, and business analysts being problem solvers and being able to, you know, maximize value in business, I don't think that would change in the future. And I think if we focus on those rather than the outputs, like Ed was saying, in any context, you know, whether, you know, the landscape is changing, if you still apply the same principles, because in a different context, you still need to be able to understand the business need, think of a solution, you know, interpret that, think of a solution, be involved in. So I think if we focus on that, rather than the outputs, which is the requirements, user stories, and etc. You know, I don't think that the future BA needs to be any different than what we're trying to push now, if that makes sense.
Sivi, you know, I see what you say, and it makes perfect sense. And maybe to just cycle back to what Edward said, he put it beautifully, because the truth is, maybe in a couple of years, we're going to have another body saying we want to train requirement engineer, design engineer. I think requirement and design is overrated. I'm not saying it's not important. It's important. It will get to a point, people will learn how to, you know, document their requirement. But I think maybe I'll use another word. Edward said, until we become a business advisor, I would say until we learn, the value lies in our ability to empathize with the business, you know, with the business, not just stakeholders. And with that, we can provide real value in meeting business needs. And I think that is important. You know, a lot of things will come and go, but, you know, needs will always evolve. And that's where we will stay relevant. It might come, we might be referred to using another name, but I think that as a business analyst, it gets to a point that we need to move beyond requirement. We still work on requirement, but we need to move from at that tactical level to that strategic level, where we are providing real and tangible value for the business. Thank you.
I think along the theme of, you know, staying relevant, for me, it just boils down to one thing, right? To learning, and for BAs to not stop learning and to keep up to date with the latest analysis, tech, and industry trends, and just to constantly upskill themselves. I mean, there's a wealth of information online. There's courses, you know, there's videos, etc. And it goes down to taking the time or making the time to learn about new things, these new trends, learning about new industries, learning to adopt new techniques, and to Oli's point, even exposing yourself to, you know, what's happening worldwide, reading the news and kind of, you know, being involved in those communities. And I think as long as you commit to a learning journey, you will always remain relevant, because you will always keep up with the times. And should any shift happen, you are always, I guess, ahead of that, because you are continuously upskilling yourself and learning.
Yeah. And you can operate in any context. Sorry, Ed. And I think my biggest, I think, steepest learning curve was when I was a consultant, because in a couple of months you're in a different business, in a couple of months you're in a completely different industry that you've never worked in before, you know, and then the other 6 months you're doing something else in a completely different business. So you completely evolve. You're constantly in a space of change, meeting. You're always a new person. You always have to build relationships very quickly, you know, understand the problem very quickly, get familiar with the context of the business, the industry that they operate in, and the elements that Ed was talking about, like compliance things or whatever that may impact what your output, you know, in a very short space of time, and then you're out, and then you're in another space. So that's why I was kind of saying, for me, I don't see changing as long as you stick to those core, I think, principles or values in terms of what a BA actually, what the function of a BA actually is, or strives to be.
Yeah. So you know, what you've just referred to is what I call the plug and play skills of business analysis. Yeah. You have to have, as a BA, you need to identify what are your plug and play skills, which are regardless of the environment you operate in. And it helps, being a consultant is actually even more useful, because you removed from the technology, you removed from the environment, but you come in, you have a systematic approach to business analysis. Now, this is where your technical skills of being a BA come in handy, because, you know, I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, right? These things will help me to get up to speed with, because I think there should be some, some thought process behind the madness. Because if there isn't, then you don't know whether you're coming or going. And what I was saying, Elon, it may seem like a big ask that we're talking about, or it may seem like too theoretical, for an example. But the reality is, it's the nature of the job requires us to go outside of the space that we're working in, because then if we do that, if we show interest in the product as it performs, then your product guys start looking at you different. Say, this person has got interest in my business. You know, I need to tap into your brain. You know, I'm thinking, because for me that's very big. You know, when people start saying we need to tap into your brain, it means they value your opinion, because they think you've got something to offer. But it doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't happen overnight, right? There's a lot of pain that you've got to go through. There's a lot of understanding. Go deeper. I always say, sit with the QA guys. You know, if you're new in a business, I say you're in your business, you're trying to figure out how things work, go and sit with the QA. Those people will take you through the systems in and out. That's one step forward. You start to understanding. And then you sit, you initiate these conversations, because the mistake that we make as well, we wait to be invited to the conversations. We don't take initiative to invite people to the conversations. And we have ideas as business analysts, but we're waiting to be asked. We don't set up a meeting to say, you know what, actually, from a product guy, you know, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Am I off the line? You know, this is what I say, this is how I see the world. And as much they will guide you, but they'll also say, this person is very interested in what we do.
Solid.
Thank you very much for that, Edward. Thank you for the valid points that you've just made. We are now going to open this up to the floor. So we're going to allow our attendees to pose their questions. So I already know that there is a hand up from Carrington. So Carrington, you can unmute yourself and pose the question. So you can specify the panelists that you are posing your question to, or you can say to any of the panelists. Over to you, Carrington. Carrington, you can speak. You can
Hello,
unmute
can you
yourself.
hear me?
Yes, we can
We
hear you.
can.
No, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Mine are not really questions, but I just want to comment and add the techniques in terms of the discussions that we have. There was a discussion about a question on the functions of a business analyst. There's a model which is called a business analysis framework. It outlines some of the functions. It's a model which outlines the functions of a business analyst. It states the first one is investigate the business situation. The second one, consider perspectives from stakeholders. The third one, analyze the needs. The fourth one, evaluate options. And the last one, define the requirements. I'm just gonna be brief in terms of my comments so that others will get a chance to speak. Then there was also a discussion about taking a holistic view. One can apply a model called the POPIT model. That one is POPTIT. It's POPIT. People, organization, processes, technology, and information. So when you're analyzing the needs or we're analyzing the requirements, for you to take a holistic view, you can apply that model. There's also a model that can be applied. There was a discussion about understanding the stakeholders, where Edward was saying, if you are not careful, some of the stakeholders can disrupt the workshop or they can take over the workshop. There's a model called the power grid model, power interest grid. So on the x-axis, you put power, on the y-axis, you put interest/influence. Then you start plotting inside the graph where your stakeholders are. For example, those with high interest and high power, you don't need to do anything to them. What about those with a lot of power but very low interest to the project? Then you need now to come up with a mechanism of how you have to move them from that position where they are going to have also interest in the project. Those with the little interest and the little power, what is their role in the project? Then you do that analysis, and then you can apply that model or that technique to help you drive your projects or manage your projects. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrington. If you can also post these techniques that you just mentioned in the chat so that the others can go and they can Google them or learn more about them. Is there something you'd like to add, Edward?
No. I'm saying
Okay.
well said. Yeah, well articulated. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrington. I can see in the Q&A section that there's questions from Zweletu. So Zweletu, if you're online, you can unmute yourself and pose your questions.
Thank you very much. I was actually struggling to unmute, but thank you very much. What an excellent panel, I must say. Thank you very much for this. Thanks to the IIBA Cape Town for giving us an opportunity to interact with such great panelists. Thank you very much. On my side, I had posted initially when we were talking about where does the business analyst fit. I just wanted to confirm whether a business analyst would be more of a consulting body that is a consulting body that consults with the business, consults with IT, and kinds of stands independent of the two and ensures that the interests of the other are met. So I just wanted to just pose that question. Would it be that a business analyst kinds of sits outside of both areas?
Zweletu, that's the exact same point that I raised, because, you know, I guess in the organizations that we work in now, there's kind of like a clear line in terms of it's in IT or it sits within the different business functions. And my thinking was exactly that how about it sit independently and, it can approach problems objectively. It doesn't have any bias to technology or business problems, but rather looking at solutions holistically and basically being able to represent both parties equally. So I think that should definitely be the direction that analysis goes. And I imagine there should be organizations that implement them. I guess I, for one, have not been exposed to them, but I do definitely think that should be the future of analysis, or at least analysis structuring and positioning within an organization.
Awesome.
Right now,
No,
Zoleti, it's a question of the cost center and the
Exactly. I was going to actually say that it's about who pays.
Okay, if I may jump right in. So I know that the revenue service here in Nigeria, because I work with them, they have a business analysis team, independent of IT, independent of the business. But I think looking at that structure, maybe the future will be every unit or every department will end up having a rep on the BA team. So I see it more like a general council, at the UN, kind of, where everybody, every unit will have a rep, because it serves two purposes. One, when you're doing anything, they serve as a domain subject matter expert on the BA team, because you used to be in HR. Now you're now HR BA, that's one. Then two, it means that everybody's interest can be covered. Some departments, they obviously, because of their positioning, they are more obvious, they are better placed than others. So if we are moving to being solving problems, and because what they do there is they have the enterprise team, which their function is to look at opportunities for improvement, and then they suggest to the management. So I think going forward, it's good to have them sit independently and then have rep on the BA team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Olu, because I had a follow-up question on there to say that looking at the question that was asked about the BA of the future, I strongly believe that the BA of the future is independent of the two, IT and business, such that the BA of the future is able to move from the minimal detail and also to the highest strategic points of view, where they are able to add a value from a strategic point of view, but they are also able to fulfill the strategy and implement the strategy and be at the operational level and actually ensure that the operations are following up with that strategy that has been implemented.
100%.
I think a bit of exposure that I've had to an organization that's tried to separate the BA function as almost you almost get a resource from the pool of BAs that are not sitting necessarily within a specific business area. But again, it goes back to what Ed was saying, it's cost center, right? Because whoever now gets almost a resource from that pool of BAs, they kind of try to influence where their thinking should be, because their interest should be in, if I'm as the business, I'm getting an analyst as a consultant on my project, I almost want them to drive my agenda. And if it's the IT team almost saying there's a big program happening, we need business analysts, and they source a business analyst from this, they also drive their own agenda from a technology perspective. So that's a bit of exposure I've had in trying to separate. It still goes back to kind of, I suppose it's a mindset change as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sevu.
Thank you, Zelia, to have so much valid points that were mentioned by our panelists. I'm going to hand over to Sinalo. You had your hand up. I'm not sure if you still have a question. Hello, Sinalo. You can unmute yourself.
She does seem to be unmuted.
Yeah.
Sinalo used to be in my team, actually. This feels like a mini reunion.
Yeah. Maybe Senala is still trying to find that unmute button. We're going to move to more questions. I see Mark had a question. I'm not sure if you're still online, Mark. I'm thinking maybe not. Okay, I don't think Mark is online. There is a question that was from Ditebe. Ditebe, are you still online?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you can pose your question.
Yes, for me, as I was listening, I'm seeing a BA as more a change agent and an innovator, because now more and more the business analyst knows more and knows a greater scope than all the involved parties. And that has been quite interesting, because I've been around in business analysis for more than 20 years. And I've seen the shift, because we used to have this business system analyst during our days, then we have business analysts these days, and then we had business architecture fitting with IT architecture into the whole architecture. So the business analysis center of excellence used to own the business architecture, and being able to say, yes, this is how it starts from the value chain up to where now IT gets involved and actually implementing the procedures and all of the PPP. Yeah. So it's interesting to listen nowadays in this digital space that business analysts are seen as those change agents, that they come in, they get the requirements, but there's still that missing part where we say, how do we effect the changes that we have identified? IT implements a solution, and the developer says we are done. QA has passed, everybody's passed, but the system is there and nobody knows. Now, change management sometimes is not done properly. Then the business analyst has to say, have we reaped the benefits of the change? Have we implemented the change as per customer expectation, instead of now jumping to the next project quickly?
Sure.
So it's my view.
Yeah, very good point.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ditebe. Yeah.
Thank you, Ditebe, for your points. Is there anyone else that would like to ask their question, pose their question, please? You can just unmute yourself and pose your question. I don't see any hand up though. Okay, I'll give it a minute or so. Going once, going twice. Okay. It has been such a fruitful panel discussion. It has been I'm quite certain that our attendees have learned as much as I have from all our panelists today, and our attendees, such valid points that were raised by our panelists, by our attendees, the discussion, the questions that were raised as well. I feel like, especially with Carrington, please post, I hope you did post your those techniques on our chat, so that our attendees as well as us, we can go and research and learn about those techniques and start incorporating them into our daily lives, in our daily work lives. Also, the soft skills that were mentioned, the importance of self-awareness, of the importance of being able to work with people, to be people aware, to be aware of your surroundings, to build those relationships with people, because as our panelists have mentioned, it is psychology is very vital in our everyday lives. So I'm taking everything and I'm putting it in the pocket, and starting tomorrow, I'm incorporating everything into my daily life. If you don't have any further questions, without further ado, thank you very much to you, Edward. Thank you, Loyiso. Thank you, Sibuyile. And thank you very much, Oludayo, for your time, being able to come and share with us your expertise and your knowledge. We look forward to interacting with you on LinkedIn. We look forward to interacting with you on the BA Summit. If any of you or the attendees, if any of you are interested in joining us in the BA Summit, please go on our LinkedIn page. We did post the BA Summit link there. Please interact. If you have any questions, you can pose it to any of the IIBA South Africa executives, or you can just in pop a link or pop in a message to our to any of our to any of our IIBA executive, or you can email us at IIBA, Cape Town at southafrica.iiba.org. It has been a long day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. I hope to see you at our next event. Please be on the lookout at our LinkedIn page. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Zulumkile. You
All
too.
right,
Thanks,
then.
everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.